2023. I went to see Masemola to sit down with him to say, my case has been finalized. I want to come back to work. Masemola said he was studying the judgment. Come the following day. The following day I went. He said he was going to have a meeting with the minister. I must wait for him. I waited for him in the office until late, about 6, 7 in the afternoon. Then he said, no, come back tomorrow. I came the following day. When I arrived, he also went to have a meeting with Kele, and he came back and he said, go home, state attorney will write you a letter. But our engagement and discussion was friendly. We were talking and laughing. I was even saying to Masemola, but tell me, what is the problem? What is it that I owe you so that I pay you? Why are you doing these things to me? He said, no, it's not personal. So I really don't have any bad feeling between us. There's no bad blood between us.
So you say that you had a good working relationship up until the point at which he made comments that you were not wanting to cooperate. And this issue had to do with Minister Cele. What was your working relationship with Minister Cele like?
My working relationship with Mr. Kele was official. I think when he wants me to do certain things that are like this pressure of RT15 and this issue of the PPE where he berated me, I stand my ground. I respected him as my minister. And secondly, there wasn't a good relationship between him and the former National Commission. Now, when there are submissions submitted to his office, instead of him calling the National Commissioner, he will call me to explain those submissions. And part of when you look at the transcript that I said I did record him, you will hear where he says in one of those things that he complained to me about, that at certain stage, they used to have those bi-weekly meetings with the National Commission up until General Mfazi came in. And in one of the meetings, he says he is aware that there was a meeting which was between DM Matale, General Stole, and Mr. Malema of the EFF. The next thing I hear, Malema insulting me on television as a result of that meeting. He was telling me all those things. And in the very same, I said, but General, why can't you resolve your issues with the National Commission? He said, it's too late. It's too late. He's going.
Lieutenant General, the question had to do with Minister Cele, and you then moved on to the former National Commissioner. It was quite unclear who you are referring to when you were dealing with the section of, other persons who are not party to that meeting were being brought, particularly Mr. Malema. If you can just maybe for the purposes of clarity, so that I understand whether you are still speaking about the minister as the question had asked, or you are referring to the former commissioner and what was particularly said, just for the record.
I am saying when there were submissions from the Office of the National Commission.
Which National Commissioner?
Or General Sitole.
Yes, okay.
The minister, instead of calling the National Commission.
Minister, which minister?
Okay.
Okay.
He will call me to explain those submissions as such. But in the process, while we are doing the work, he will be ventilating on the frustrations he had with General Sitole. And I will not comment because Sitole was my boss. Part of it will be Sitole is not even attending funeral of the members, and all those comments that I said earlier on also with regard to where he said he was surprised while he is named as being ugly on television by Mr. Malema. but he realized that there was a meeting when he is being discussed.
What
by the
meeting?
trio. He
And
said-
who is the trio?
He said he said he learned that there was a meeting where Mr. Malima, General Stolle and Matale were discussing about him. After that meeting, he started to hear negative comments about him from Mr. Malima.
Okay.
So those are the things that he will say to me. This I'm saying because it is also.
This is what the minister would say to you.
Yes.
The question though to you, Lieutenant General, was what was the working relationship between you and the minister up until this point? For the past, say, 45 minutes, we have dealt with evidence where the minister seems to be interfering in your operational day-to-day work. With every single contract that you have mentioned thus far, the minister was unhappy. The minister was involving civilians. So what was your relationship like? There were threats that followed after you had taken certain actions. And the question is, stems from those particular submissions that you have made.
I did respond that the relationship was official.
So it was one of
an official relationship because he was my superior. And when he calls me, I will go and I will respect. And if he gives me legal directive or instruction, I will comply. But if I feel this one is not like the ones of swerving the investigations, I didn't. So it was official.
Okay. So there were certain instructions that you were complying to. What type of instructions did you comply to, and what did you refute, so that we are clear on what we are dealing with?
I mentioned that the submissions, he will call me so that I explain the submissions. I will go and explain the submissions. When the minister now, when he wanted me to continuously continue to explain the details of this RT15 to Mato Madlala and saying I'm moving slow. I said, the due process is being followed. I can't push people to do beyond what they are supposed to be doing. So I will explain. I will even explain when he wanted me to change recommendations for Jacobs, I refused. And I said, but this is the investigation that, based on the information that was presented to me, statement and interviews, I came up with this recommendation. I can't change those so that Jacobs cannot be disciplined.
Okay. We are now at paragraph 46 of your statement. There you list a number of investigations that you conducted whilst in your role. You list a number of 20 investigations. Do you want to just perhaps elaborate on why you listed these investigations and what would you like to say about them without going into too much detail because of time?
Okay. I listed these ones, and I must say that they are not the only ones, but these are the ones that I listed in my protected disclosure. When I said that during the time when I was suspended, I was still busy with amongst this. Part of the business here had to do with, these were the outcome of the forensic investigations from internal audits. So we needed to continue finalizing their disciplinary matters. And obviously as the DNC for support, I was the one who had to write to different business units, and I was equally appointed as the disciplinarian of the organization. I was responsible to oversee the entire discipline of the SAPS. So where there are issues of discipline, it was my responsibility to communicate with relevant business units to say, institute the disciplinary matters on the following. When there were delays, I will intervene and ask for progress report. So these were 4.6, 46.6. It was with a contract with regard to the fuming system, where the final outcome of the investigation implicated the following members. It was Lieutenant General Patlane, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Smith, Colonel Hannibal, and Colonel Makoban. The next is a digital capturing system. I'll just jump the numbers just to save time. And the enhancement of latent prints implicating members from TMS and forensic services, where it named the Lieutenant General Patlane, Brigadier Mulwane, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Smith, and Colonel Nguban. The next one is a crime scene protecting stepping plates, where it implicated and named General Patlane, Major General Kuno, Major General Mangale, Major General Manamela, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Baloyi, Colonel Hannibal, Captain Mamabulu, and Captain Kuna, Major Mkhajwa, and Lieutenant Mulot. The next one is a contract with regard to crime scene lighting system for indoor and outdoor lighting of crimes scene implicating SINA. Members from forensic services named Lieutenant General Patlane, Major General Manamela, Major General Kuno, Major General Mangale, Brigadier Baloyi, Brigadier Devet, Brigadier Diko, Brigadier Reddy, Colonel Hannibal.
Lieutenant General, you've listed all of them and they are there, but you don't elaborate on why you list these various investigations that you were involved in. As a Lieutenant General, very senior in the SAPS, you would have conducted investigations, and all you do there is you list them. Is there anything that you want this committee to make out of the investigations, those specific ones? What should we make of those investigations?
As I said, that these were not the only one, but these are the ones that I mentioned in my protected disclosure. And I attached the detailed report. They are very detailed, what has happened in those circumstances. I may not have crammed everything inside to those investigations, but if we go through, if you want, we can go through the detailed report where I can be able to explain the details of what was uncovered. For example, there was also one which I now remember in terms of, okay, now the one that I'm looking at now, 46.11, if I may elaborate on it. Because
was this part of, were these investigations that you were conducting in your day-to-day work within SAPS, or were these specific type of investigations where you had seen involvement of seniors, whether it is the two seniors that you had been mentioning prior to getting to this paragraph? So up until this point, you have specifically set out that Minister Cele was unhappy about my actions here. Minister Cele was unhappy about my refusal at this point. General Mesumula warned me to not refuse and to remove the minister's name. At this point, you just list the investigations. Perhaps not without going into detail about the outcome of each investigation. You say that it was part of the protected disclosures that you made. Are you alleging interference in these investigations? What is it that the committee must make of these?
Okay.
Because there's no paragraph to elaborate.
Okay. What I am saying here, I mentioned these investigations in my protected disclosure due to the reason that as I said, that in the execution of my duties, I worked with internal audit. I will dispatch internal audit to certain business units to conduct audit. And as and when they discover some irregularities, I will sign the mandate for the in-depth forensic investigation so that they go deep in finding what are the issues that need to be uncovered under those particulars. Some of them, for example, were as a result of the contracts. The contracts will be, for example, in one of these, the contract for cabling at Telkom Towers, as I said that. So there will be detailed information. Now, the reason why I put these in the protected disclosure, I said I put this because I was busy with them in ensuring that the outcome of these investigations, disciplinary steps are being instituted and made follow-up on them, on the people that are named on this, which I'm saying maybe because General Masemula, for example, in the briefing that I attached there, where I was briefing him with litigation and other issues, there were 4 cases that were pending at the Triple SBC and some in court. So when I mentioned those, he said, why are you not just leaving these things, not attending to it? So my suspicion was maybe because I was busy with these things and making follow-up and ensuring that disciplinary steps are instituted in relevant business units. It might have been one of the reasons that they decided to remove me from the office.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant General. If we can then move on to the next project that you investigated. It is the mandate to investigate Project 1000 recruitment process. There you say that you had an intake of new recruits in the different academies, and some of them were at the training facility at the South African Defence Force in Kimberley. What were the complaints that you say you were receiving? What were they pertaining to?
During 2022, we were given an opportunity as subs to employ 10,000 members. And majority of those members, we had to take them from the current, at the time, reservists who were in the reservist program. So because of the capacity we have, we could not accommodate all these students in our academies. Part of the students were accommodated at Kimberley in the SNDF training college. So while the students were there, they complained about the accommodation, they complained about, they were hosted in tents. They were, the food they were eating, they were not happy with it. And some were complaining with regards to them not having passed all the processes, especially the reservists, but they were left, they did not attend the training.
What steps did you take once you became aware?
I went to Kimberley itself to find out, to experience, because they were even in the media, all these complaints. I went to Kimberley to find out what were the challenges, and I could see that they were sitting in tents, being accommodated in tents in their training. Even the mess was congested. It wasn't big enough to, even the manner they preparing food. So I came back with a team. I wasn't alone. And I recommended to General Masemula that we needed to remove those students from the training institution in Kimberley. And General Masemula agreed and said, myself with the team must look at alternative venues. While we're looking at alternative venues around Gauteng as well as Mpumalanga, we went to see a facility in Bedford View. We also went to see a facility somewhere in Mpumalanga. And when we came back to brief the National Commissioner, it was also on that day of the 30th when the National Commissioner informed me that he is under pressure to suspend me. Now,
So what,
finally, on the 8th of July, he suspended me.
you attach a report FNV 52 in support of your recommendations and the steps you took after the Project 1000.
Yeah.
And that can be found at page 1405 of the paginated bundle. You then deal with threats to your life after all the various investigations that you listed. You state that from around February 2021, you began to receive intimidating messages, which you reported to General Sithole. So this would have been before, under General Sithole being was General Sithole the commissioner at the time when the threats began?
Yes.
In 2021, okay, that's why you read. And he instructed you to write a statement for the purpose of conducting a threat assessment on your life. Was that threat assessment conducted?
Yes, it was conducted by crime intelligence.
What were the findings?
The findings confirmed that there is indeed a threat to such an extent that General Sithole wanted to beef up my security at home as well as give me the protectors, but I rejected it. I must say that I said I'm comfortable with the one driver that I had. I know God will protect me. There is something I omitted, and I know we are running for time. To mention in regard.
Lieutenant General, it is your statement and your evidence. At the point at which we reach the end, the time, it will end, our testimony will end. So whatever time you take, just be cognizant that, we haven't dealt with all the evidence.
Okay, there is something critical on this project, 10,000. That is why I think I put it on here, because the mandate that I signed produced a preliminary report on the 8th of July when I was suspended. It was a preliminary report which highlighted discrepancies in regards to what happened in that process of recruitment. Now, after my suspension, the final report was never produced because General Nkosi was taken back to the post of being the chief audit executive. Okay.
Okay. So you say that once, okay, if I could just maybe deal with that last part. You say that the final audit was never produced, and that Major General Nkosi then was taken back to the audit.
Chief executive.
What is the relevance of that?
I'm saying the reason why General Nkosi was preferred to be the chief audit executive to such an extent that even the minister fought for his removal is because she was able to do anything they asked her to do.
Okay. Going back to paragraph 54, which is where we were, once the SSA conducted the assessment, they made recommendations, but you refused to take additional security. At paragraph 54, you say that you were also informed by Brigadier Matebula that Minister Cele, Lieutenant General Ngwenya, and others held meetings where they hatched up plans to falsely implicate you in non-existent PPE corruption. You mentioned this under the section that threats to your life. What is the relationship between that statement and the threats that you were experiencing on your life?
The relationship here has got to do with the fact that the minister felt that during the time of the PPE, remember when I said we were given companies, etc., and we were, which General Reid tried his best, but he was regarded as refusing not to purchase from those companies. So when the information said they wanted to implicate me in relation to the PPEs, I believe that it has to do with that particular matter. So they wanted to deal with me as if I deliberately did not want to support the minister on what he wanted, but it was not true. How can they want to implicate me on false things?
Okay. Just for the sake of completion, at your paragraph there, you say that the plans were to falsely implicate you, but you go on further and you say, upon not being successful to make the charges stick, they resorted that you be killed. How did you come to know this?
Because
That the minister, these are serious allegations, that the minister and Lieutenant General Mgwenya would have wanted to kill you. How did you come to know that information?
the person who called me told me that he was in that meeting when that discussion took place. And he said, I must not take this thing lightly.
Okay. Did you ever confront the minister about it?
I never confronted him.
Did you open a
I
case?
only informed my immediate supervisor, who was General Stone, who also took those initiatives that a threat assessment be conducted by crime intelligence.
And as a result of that threat assessment, in the middle of the paragraph, you say a week later, you were called by state security officials
Yes.
who interviewed you and recommended that you be provided with state protection. And this would have been as a result of
Those.
their investigation that the minister wants you killed. You then rely on FNV 10 for that statement. And FNV 10 is at, and actually NSB is a statement by you, which starts at page 256 of the paginated bundle. Yeah. For the sake of time, we will not go into it, but it is the statement that you would have filed
Through the state security.
through SSA requesting for intervention. Okay. Were there any criminal charges laid against the minister
No,
and against Lieutenant General Mgwenya?
no.
No further steps were taken?
No.
Okay. If you can then proceed to paragraph 55.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, perhaps I can summarize. At paragraph 55, you say that on the 11th of May, 2023, approximately midnight, an armed robbery occurred where three men came straight into your bedroom and pointed guns at you, firearms at you, wearing balaclavas. They took all the gadgets and some items in your house. This would have been after the threat assessment would have been conducted and you refused additional support for protection. And then subsequently to that, your home was, there was a burglary. Would you like to comment about that paragraph?
Yes, it is happening now when I'm on suspension. And I must say that in my analysis, I think it happened as a result of, because we were exchanging paper. There was a matter, my matters that were pending in the Triple SBC. And a week thereafter, we were going to appear. And a week before, we exchanged papers. And I attached this transcript in one of those bundles, which is so long, where I had an engagement with the minister. So these people came to my house in the middle of the night, pointing me with guns, taking, they first went for the gadgets, and then I created a conversation with them, I must say, with their leader. And they said, they confirmed, he confirmed to me that, yeah, we know that you are a police, we know that you have a firearm, we know you have a safe. And I said, how do you know that? He told me that, yeah, they've been sent to kill me.
Who did they say sent them?
I asked, they didn't say. So while they were doing that, saying, where is the safe? Where is your firearm? I just surrendered to them. I said, Mina, I've been dismissed by the police. I'm at home. I'm just an ordinary woman. I have nothing. The police took everything, all their equipment, which was true. They took everything. So I started to have a conversation with this guy, and he started, in fact, to protect me, to say to the other two, go away, go and do whatever, take whatever you want, leave Mama alone. Then and when we were conversing with this guy, he said, yeah, these people, but he did not tell me who are they. They've sent me here because I am the one who's terrorizing this community around here. He even told me that 2 weeks ago he was shot at the back, etc., and all those things. I said, what exactly do you want? He said, we've been sent to get things, amongst others. We also were sent to kill you.
Well, you are seated on the witness seat. They obviously did not kill you.
They
Were you
did not
harmed in
kill
any
me.
way? How
was-
did that confrontation end?
They sat with me in the footage because I have cameras that goes to my bedroom for 40 minutes. Now, he said they also wanted some gadgets from who do I have in the house. I told him I'm just with children. Then he said, okay, they will go to the children. After they turned my room upside down. So they were searching for something, which I don't know what is it that we're searching, but they took all the iPad, iPhone, the laptops.
Were they ever recovered?